Comrade, can you please comment on the change or the evolution of slogans from your time to this present era?
You see, the student movement has always been alive to the question of responding to a particular situation. Now, if you see that primarily our education system has also evolved over the years. When we adopted our constitution, the basic direction was towards ensuring universal primary education. And up to the second or the third plan, the government was also spending some more money for funding primary education. The government also created institutions of higher learning. They set up IITs and Indian Institute of Management and such other things. But as and how the requirement arose and the need for enhancing investment on education arose, they refused to do so. Now, for example, when the Education Commission was constituted, headed by D.S. Kothari between 1964 and 1966, they recommended that 6% of GDP should be spent on education. But the government did not respond. And now you see that we are spending less than 3% of GDP in education. So then SFI developed this slogan of education for all, jobs for all in the early 80s. Then subsequently in the mid-80s, we found that the government of Rajiv Gandhi, they introduced what you call the new education policy, where the stress was on institutionalizing elitism.
Yeah.
And they said that we cannot spend for education all the money. We will only spend money for training and educating students who are employable. Those who cannot find employment or who will be unemployable, we cannot waste our money on that. Therefore, they started investing money in elite institutions, in center of excellence, in center of special importance, and so on and so on. Then naturally, our entire slogans, if you see in those days, that we raised the questions of how education can be expanded. Then early 1990s, we had the full-fledged neoliberal paradigm taking over, where the government started introducing commercialization, privatization in a very big way. Then SFI slogans also responded to that situation, raising slogans against commercialization, against privatization, against and subsequently we found that because in a diverse country like India, if they have to advance these policies and there were certain rights in our constitution assigned to the state governments. Therefore, to make it homogeneous throughout the country, they had to centralize things. They brought about legislative changes also, where they wanted to concentrate powers in academic bodies, regulatory bodies like UGC, like All India Council for Technical Education, MCI, AICTE, MCI. And therefore then SFI raised also slogans against centralization, for decentralization, for greater role because our ultimate understanding was education has to blossom, education has to flourish. The stakeholders, the academic community, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, the students, they would have to be allowed a role in administering education. Therefore, the question of democratization of education came up in a big way. So I think as and how the policies and the system of education in this country has evolved, SFI has responded to that. Now today have we have a major offensive. So therefore, I think in course of time, SFI will respond to the situation and come up. And it is for the present generation of SFI leaders to take upon themselves that responsibility.
So this is an era of intolerance now. So can you please comment? What's the role of students, colleges and schools, to revolt or to resist this intolerance which is
You see, the
horribly spreading in our country?
basic point that we have to understand that India is diverse, and Indian diversity is fascinating. It's not merely in terms of religious belief. Our culture, our language, our cuisine, the way we clothe ourselves, everything is different.
The climate is also.
And therefore climate is different. Now I think in Trivandrum you will be able to wear a woolen.
We never had seen this sweater.
When I was in the SFI, in the coldest months of December, when I traveled to Trivandrum, I I was shivering even with the layers of woolens that I was using. But by the time I thought that I should only be in my undergarments, that kind of a situation. So therefore, it is the capacity of the Indian society, this pluralism, this composite nature, how we can integrate these diversities yet remain united. This is the biggest challenge, and that cannot be done by straitjacketing India, by straitjacketing Indian society. You see, basically we have to respect, like the whole question of eating of beef. Now, what we eat is our personal choice, and they invoke certain religious texts, which is all untrue. And apart from that, it is ultimately a choice of the people what kind of food they will take. But it is one thing not to accept that what other peoples are eating, but you are killing people for what they are eating. This is something which is really unacceptable, and it is unsustainable. So similarly, how can you dictate people what kind of dresses they will wear, what kind of cultural taste they will have? See, this is really an interpretation of religious tradition, which has nothing to do with our history or our civilization. While they claim that what they are doing is to protect our civilization, it is quite the contrary. They are actually undermining the civilizational ethos of India. Sometimes we also, in our anxiety to take the communal forces on, we also do not sufficiently stress that what we are saying is not something which has been imported from the West, but it is the civilizational ethos of assimilation. See, many people say that well, Hinduism has survived. It has precisely survived because it is assimilatory in nature. It does not confront. It allows diversity of thought, diversity of interpretation. It is not a Semitic religion. You do not have any fundamentals. You find atheists also part of the Hindu philosophical tradition. You find also different varieties of thinking, because when Supreme Court was asked this question, how do you define Hindu religion? Supreme Court said Hinduism is a way of life, जीवन शैली है. कोई धर्म का जो बुनियाद होना चाहिए जैसे दूसरे धर्म में है, ऐसा हिंदू धर्म में नहीं है. और हिंदू धार्मिक जो विचार है उसके अंदर भी उस तरह के कोई बुनियादी सोच नहीं है, तो इसीलिए टिक गए. तो therefore the essential element, essential mainstay of fighting intolerance is to really derive the strength from our own past, our own civilizational past, and strengthen it so that we can take on this intolerance which does not accept the diversity that we have in our society.
Okay, so now our campuses and on the younger generation, I think some a political idea is spreading there.
See, that is another irony. That question of depoliticization was there right from the beginning. If you see the British days, those days, that young, educated people, they were told that you must not oppose the British government because that will undermine the possibility of advancing your careers. But yet, the fire of freedom within them brought them into the freedom struggle and also all other social movements. So, similarly, at different points in time, the ruling elite, they want young people not to be aware of their circumstances and not to be aware of the need for change in those circumstances. You see, right after the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, when Modi became the Prime Minister, after many years, one party had majority, absolute majority in Lok Sabha. Now, all these newspapers, magazines, television discussions, they were saying Modi has got so many seats because he's the icon of the youth. Because Modi was merchandising dreams. जो अच्छे दिन का बात आया है हर चीज पे कि ये बुरा था वो बुरा था अब सब कुछ समाधान हो जाएगा क्योंकि मोदी जी सरकार में आ गए बहुत हुआ भ्रष्टाचार की मार अब की बार मोदी सरकार बहुत हुआ बेरोजगारी का मार अब की बार मोदी सरकार तो therefore since it was an unreal dream it was not rooted in actual socio-economic realities of the country. And given the kind of policy framework he has of going outright for promoting corporate interest. So therefore, today most of the youth in the country, they are unemployed. They are not having enough educational opportunities.
They're underemployed also.
Therefore, how can you project him as the icon of youth? Whereas his policies, his positions is actually not attempting to address most of the concerns of the young people, most of the young people. You are talking of a very, very small, minuscule section of the youth and trying to say that he is the icon. So therefore, for organizations like SFI, it is important to also go and reach out to those sections of the youth, to address those sections of the students whose interests are inimical to the kind of paradigm and trajectory that Modi would like to take. So, which section of the youth you are talking about, which section of the students you are talking about, that is what is relevant.